Verse 20 says, why should you be intoxicated, my son, with a forbidden woman and embrace the bosom or the breasts of an adulteress? It says, why? You think about that. I honestly tried to think through this, like what would be the potential answers? Like what can you think of would be a good reason? I mean, think about this. You're in that moment. You're with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or just some random person that you planned on hooking up with. And think about that moment. And you're thinking, should I do this? What reasons can you come up with? And I honestly really only came up with two possible reasons you might be able to come up with. One is a quick, short-lived orgasm. Or two, for some of you, it's simply a few moments where you feel wanted. It's a few moments where you feel loved. You feel like somebody actually cares about you. And the real question here is why should you not sleep with someone who's not your spouse? Why should you not engage in any sort of sexual activity with someone who's not your spouse? And he gives three reasons, verse 21, 22, and 23. He says, number one, for a man's ways are before the eyes of the Lord, and God ponders all of his paths. I mean, one, God sees everything, but here's kind of the big point here. It's destructive. It's destructive to your relationship with God. Assuming that you have a relationship with God through Jesus Christ, it's destructive to your relationship with God. I mean, James calls the people he's talking to adulterous people. And it's not adulterous because they were necessarily sleeping with people who weren't their husband or wife. He says, don't you know that to be a friend of the world is to be an enemy of God? Adultery is adultery secondarily because you're cheating on your spouse. Adultery is adultery primarily because you're cheating on God. Instead of pulling you closer to God, it pushes you away from God. Sex was given to us. It was designed to be a pointer to God, not a substitute for God. And instead of pulling us closer to God, when we sleep with the man or woman, or we engage in sexual activities with the person that we shouldn't, it pushes us away from God. 1 Thessalonians 4, 7 through 8, this is the AWV, the Austin Wilder version. It basically says, look, when you ignore these commands of God, you are resisting or pushing away the same God who gives you the Holy Spirit. That's one of the greatest blessings of being a believer in Jesus, is you have the Holy Spirit, and you're pushing him out. So it's destructive.